If you ask me, the sheer brilliance of this impending storyline lies in the domino effect that starts with the single, horrifying splash. As we know, Drew has been battling to regain his mobility, locked in a terrifying state of paralysis. Now, imagine the sheer terror of being trapped in your own body, only to find yourself plunging into the unforgiving, freezing waters of the lake. I firmly believe that this is where Giovanni Palmieri's world is going to turn upside down. Gio is not just a talented musician, he has a background as a lifeguard, and his survival instincts are razor sharp. When he dives into that dark water and pulls a drowning Drew to safety in the absolute nick of time, it is not just a heroic rescue, it is the spark that ignites a massive, inescapable powder keg. Gio is going to be the hero of the hour, but more importantly, he is going to be the one who notices that something is fundamentally wrong with this picture. Let us dive deep into Gio's mindset here, guys. When the adrenaline finally fades, and he is standing on that wooden pier, staring at a gasping, nearly dead Drew, the scattered pieces of this puzzle are going to start clicking together in his mind. Gio might not have witnessed the actual push, but I am betting my bottom dollar that he remembers hearing Nina screaming Drew's name from the pier just moments before the splash. He will recall the sheer panic in her voice, the frantic look in her eyes, and the highly erratic way she was behaving. Gio is an incredibly observant young man, and he is going to realize that a grown man confined to a heavy wheelchair does not just accidentally roll himself off a pier into a deep lake. The realization will hit him like a ton of bricks. This was no tragic accident. This was a deliberate, cold-blooded attempt on a helpless man's life. Now, what does a smart, cautious kid like Gio do with this explosive realization? He knows the Port Charles Police Department has a notorious track record of bungling high-profile cases, and he knows that dealing with powerful, wealthy families requires a very different kind of finesse. This is where my theory takes a wild, thrilling turn. Instead of marching into Anna Devaine's precinct to file a formal report, I believe Gio is going to seek out the one man in town who possesses the unlimited resources, the lethal calm, and the personal motivation to handle this situation, Jason Morgan. Forming an unholy alliance with the resident mob enforcer might seem completely out of character for a sweet, law-abiding musician, but Gio is desperate for the truth, and he knows Jason's the ultimate, unstoppable protector. You might be thinking, but Jason and Drew have a famously fractured relationship, and you would be absolutely right. Their dynamic has been fraught with severe tension, bitter resentment, and years of painful misunderstanding. However, at the end of the day, they are brothers. They share the same blood, the same face, and deep ties to a legacy family that Jason has always fiercely protected in his own unique, violent way. If you ask me, the exact moment Jason hears Gio's theory, the moment he realizes someone tried to murder his twin brother while he was utterly defenseless, a dark switch will flip inside his head. Jason's protective instincts are unparalleled, and nobody, absolutely nobody, gets to mess with his family without facing his signature brand of silent, lethal retribution. I predict that Jason will not react with explosive anger or impulsive violence. That has never been his style, and it never will be. Instead, he will orchestrate a brilliant shadow investigation, operating completely off the books, and he will instruct Gio to act as his eyes and ears on the ground, utilizing the young man's innocent, unassuming facade to gather crucial intel. Who would ever suspect the charming, polite violin player of being a covert operative for Jason Morgan? It is the absolute perfect cover. Gio will start paying much closer attention to the shifting dynamics at the hospital, the Quartermain mansion, and the Metro Court, feeding every tiny detail, every suspicious glance, and every whispered conversation straight back to Jason. As this secret duo begins to peel back the rotten layers of this mystery, I believe their focus will inevitably shift toward the person who stands to gain the absolute most from Drew's permanent silence, Willow. We all know that Willow has been meticulously crafting a saintly image, playing the role of the perfect, highly moral congresswoman. But underneath that pristine exterior lies a hidden agenda that is growing darker and more desperate by the minute. Jason is a master at identifying hidden motives, and he will quickly realize that Drew's sudden recovery was the ultimate threat to Willow's carefully constructed life. If Drew could speak, Willow's entire world would come crashing down in flames. Jason will start to see right through her manipulative scheme, recognizing the desperate lengths she is truly willing to go to protect her fragile secrets. And then, of course, there is Nina. Oh, Nina. If my theory holds true, Jason and Gio will eventually deduce that Nina was the one who actually committed the physical act at the pier. But why? Because Nina is eternally trapped in a vicious cycle of making catastrophic, emotionally driven decisions to protect her daughter. When Nina realized that Drew was regaining his speech and that Willow was completely out of the paralyzing serum, she panicked. In a moment of pure, unadulterated desperation, she pushed that wheelchair. I suspect Jason will see exactly what is happening, a deeply flawed mother trying to cover up for her daughter's terrible sins, creating a tangled web of lies that is destined to suffocate them both. This is where the domino effect truly begins to accelerate out of control. Having committed this horrific act, Nina will be forced into a terrifying corner. Instead of coming clean, she will double down, desperately trying to cover her tracks to shield Willow from the devastating fallout. But every lie she tells will require 3 more to support it. She will have to manipulate evidence, coerce witnesses, and perhaps even leverage her newfound romance with Jack Brennan to stay ahead of the law. But what Nina does not realize is that she is not just hiding from the PCPD, she is hiding from Jason Morgan, a man who sees every shadow and hears every whisper. Her frantic attempts to cover up the crime will only serve as glaring neon signs pointing directly to her overwhelming guilt. The absolute turning point in this gripping theory will be the moment Drew finally regains his consciousness and his voice. When he wakes up in that hospital bed, coughing up lake water and gasping for air, his mind will be a jumbled mess of fragmented, terrifying memories. But as the days pass, those fragments will begin to coalesce into a clear picture. He will remember the cold wind on the pier, the sound of Nina's panicked voice, and the terrifying sensation of falling into the abyss. I believe Drew will become the star witness in his own attempted murder investigation. However, knowing that the actual police might compromise his safety, he will share these returning memories exclusively with Gio and Jason, providing them with the final, damning pieces of the puzzle. With Drew's testimony firmly in hand, Jason and Gio will methodically build an impenetrable case. They will not just rely on hearsay or fragmented memories. Jason will use his extensive underworld connections to secure undeniable, concrete proof. I am talking about recovering deleted security footage from the harbor cameras, tracking encrypted burner phone records, and perhaps even finding physical evidence left behind at the crime scene. They will gather this massive arsenal of truth in absolute silence, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Jason understands that if he tips his hand too soon, Nina and Willow will use their immense resources and political connections to slither out of the trap. Patience is his greatest weapon, and he will employ it with chilling precision. Imagine the sheer cinematic drama of the climax I am envisioning right now. Nina and Willow, believing they have successfully weathered the storm and buried their dark secrets forever, are suddenly confronted in a private, inescapable setting. Jason and Gio step out of the shadows, blocking the exits and sealing their fate. There will be no yelling, no dramatic outbursts from Jason, just a cold, hard presentation of undeniable facts. He will lay out the security photos, the digital footprints, and the recorded testimony of Drew. The look of absolute horror on Willow's face as her saintly facade shatters into a million pieces will be television gold. Nina will try to take the fall, crying and begging Jason to spare her daughter, but the trap will have already snapped shut. The fallout from this explosive exposure will be nothing short of apocalyptic for the mother-daughter duo. If this theory comes to pass, Willow will lose everything she has ruthlessly fought to maintain her congressional seat, her standing on the hospital board, and the respect of the entire Quartermain family. The revelation of her manipulative scheme will leave her utterly isolated and despised. Nina, meanwhile, will face the devastating reality of a lengthy prison sentence for attempted murder. The ultimate tragedy is that in her desperate attempt to save Willow, she will have orchestrated both of their complete downfalls. It is a poetic, heartbreaking justice that only a soap opera of this caliber can truly deliver. Beyond the destruction of Nina and Willow, this storyline would serve as a phenomenal evolution for Giovanni Palmieri. We have seen him as the sweet, somewhat naive musician, but this harrowing experience will forge him into a formidable player in Port Charles. By standing shoulder to shoulder with Jason Morgan and navigating the treacherous waters of mob-style investigations, Gio will prove that he is brave, intelligent, and capable of handling the darkest corners of this town. He will transition from a background character into a central hero, earning the permanent respect and protection of the Corinthos organization. It is the perfect coming-of-age arc for a character with so much untapped potential. Ultimately, this alliance between the hardened enforcer and the young musician represents the very best of what this show can offer. Unexpected dynamics, high-stakes drama, and the thrilling pursuit of justice. Jason will once again prove why he is the ultimate guardian of his family, stepping up to avenge a brother he barely speaks to, simply because it is the right thing to do. The slow, methodical dismantling of Nina and Willow's lives will keep us all on the absolute edge of our seats for months. But the real question remains. When Jason and Gio finally drop the hammer on this unholy alliance, will Willow try to throw her own mother under the bus to save her political career? Or will they go down together in a blaze of scandalous glory? We will just have to keep watching to find out.